There is a 4-hour window in the middle of the night that almost everyone alive today has completely forgotten how to use. Tonight, you're going to wake up at 3 a.m. You won't know why. You'll stare at the ceiling. Your mind will be sharp, unnervingly sharp, like it never is at 7 inches the morning. You'll check your phone, see the time, and feel a dull frustration that won't quite let you sink back under. Nothing is wrong with you. You've just stumbled into something your ancestors did on purpose, every single night, for over 100,000 years. Here's what almost nobody tells you about sleep. The version you think is normal, 8 straight hours, lights out, dead to the world until morning, is a historical anomaly. It is not how your body was designed to rest. It is not what your brain expects. And the proof of that is lying right there in the middle of your night, every time you open your eyes at 3 a.m. and wonder what's wrong with you. Your body is doing exactly what it evolved to do. The question is why? Roger Ekirch spent more than 20 years researching the history of night. The Virginia Tech historian combed through thousands of documents, court records, diaries, medical texts, literary sources spanning medieval Europe and beyond. What he found upended the modern understanding of sleep entirely. Before the industrial era, before gas lamps and electric light reshaped the human day, people across multiple cultures didn't sleep in one long block. They slept in two. Ekirch called it segmented sleep, biphasic sleep. A first sleep, a waking period, a second sleep. This pattern appeared so consistently, across so many sources, that Ekirch concluded it was the default mode of human rest for centuries, possibly millennia. The first sleep began at nightfall and lasted roughly 4 hours. Then people woke. That waking wasn't distressing. It wasn't treated as insomnia. It was simply the middle of the night, a quiet space between sleeps that people filled with prayer, conversation, reflection, or simply lying in the dark and letting the mind wander. Ekirch found references to this waking interval in Chaucer, in Homer, in court records from Renaissance France. Doctors of the 16th century advised people to use the waking hour between first and second sleep for conception, because they believed the body and mind were unusually receptive in that window. The interval wasn't a malfunction, it was a feature. Then the second sleep came, another 4 hours, and morning arrived. This is the rhythm your ancestors lived inside, and it turns out your body still remembers it. Thomas Ware, a psychiatrist and researcher at the National Institute of Mental Health, ran a study in the 1990s that became one of the most quietly unsettling findings in modern sleep science. He asked volunteers to spend 14 hours a night in dim light, simulating conditions closer to a pre-industrial winter. No artificial light, no screens, just darkness and time. Within a few weeks, something happened that none of the participants had been told to expect. Their sleep spontaneously split. First sleep, waking period. Second sleep, the exact pattern Ekirch had found in the historical record, appeared on its own, without instruction, without suggestion. The participants described the waking hour as unusually serene, a kind of altered stillness they hadn't felt before. Ware found that prolactin levels, a hormone associated with calm and the physiological state of deep rest, were measurably elevated during this waking window. The body was not in distress. It was in a state closer to meditation than insomnia. Your 3 a.m. awakening may not be your nervous system betraying you. It may be your nervous system doing something ancient, but the story goes deeper than medieval Europe, deeper than the Roman Empire, deeper than the first settled human village. Evolution has something to say here too. For most of the roughly 200,000 years that anatomically modern humans have existed, sleep was not safe. You didn't drift off in a temperature-controlled room behind a locked door. You slept in the open or in a shallow shelter, surrounded by darkness that hid real predators. Lions, hyenas, rival groups moving through the dark. The night was the most dangerous span of time in a human life. Sleeping through all of it, entirely unresponsive for 8 solid hours, was not a survival strategy. It was a liability. Jerome Siegel, a sleep researcher at UCLA, has studied the sleep patterns of 3 modern hunter-gatherer societies, the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia. These groups live without artificial light, without alarm clocks, without the infrastructure of modern schedules. Their sleep is consistently shorter and more broken than the idealized 8-hour block most sleep guides recommend. And crucially, within these groups, people tended to wake and sleep at staggered times. Different individuals were alert during different windows of the night. Siegel proposed that this staggering may have been adaptive, a natural early warning system. At any given moment, at least one person in the group was likely to be awake and listening. A related study on the Hadza, led by anthropologist Alyssa Crittenden and evolutionary biologist Charlie Nunn, tracked nighttime movement using wrist devices over 20 days. The sleep schedules were almost never in sync. Someone was awake nearly every minute of the night, somewhere in the camp. Researchers have called this the sentinel hypothesis. The idea that mismatched, broken sleep wasn't a flaw the group tolerated, it was a system the group depended on. It's worth sitting with how strange that is. In a world without locks, without walls thick enough to stop a predator, the thing that kept a camp safe through the night wasn't a single guard standing watch. It was variation itself, the simple biological fact that not everyone's body wanted to sleep at the same hour. Evolution didn't need to design a night watchman. It only needed enough difference between people that someone, almost by accident, would always be awake. You waking at 3 a.m. may be the echo of a time when someone had to. Think about that for a moment. Your body's architecture may have been shaped, in part, by the need to keep watch, the interruption that frustrates you, the clarity you feel in that dark window, the way your senses seem almost heightened in the middle of the night. That may not be a malfunction inherited from stress or bad sleep habits. That may be the legacy of every generation that survived because someone stayed awake long enough to hear what was moving in the dark. Modern sleep science has largely declared war on this pattern. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia teaches people to fight the waking to stay in bed, to retrain the brain toward one consolidated block of rest. And for many people, that approach genuinely helps, especially when the waking is driven by anxiety, cortisol spikes, or chronic stress, rather than ordinary biphasic biology. The science of sleep disorders is real. Not every 3 a.m. awakening is benign. If your waking leaves you consistently exhausted, paired with racing thoughts or physical distress, it is worth investigating with a medical professional. This isn't a reason to dismiss every sleep problem as ancient destiny, but there is a meaningful difference between a body in crisis and a body doing something old. Russell Foster, a circadian neuroscientist at the University of Oxford, has written about how modern societies pathologize ordinary variation in sleep behavior. The assumption that one continuous block of sleep is the biological ideal, he argues, is a relatively recent cultural construction, one that gained force with industrial work schedules and the spread of artificial light. Before that, the night was not the enemy of consciousness. It was something people moved through, in stages, the way they moved through weather. Consider what actually changed, not your biology. Not your brain. The light. Before the 19th century, darkness after sunset was close to total. A candle, a hearth fire, maybe a single oil lamp, nothing close to what now floods a single bedroom. Foster has pointed out that modern environments expose people to far more artificial light after dark than anyone experienced for almost all of human history. Street lights through the curtain. Phone screens an arm's length from your face. The blue glow of a television left on in another room. That light doesn't just keep you company, it tells your brain something false. It suppresses melatonin, the hormone that signals night has arrived, and it convinces your circadian system that dusk hasn't really happened yet. So by the time you finally lie down, you're not easing into the rhythm your ancestors had. First sleep, waking interval, second sleep. You're forcing a single block onto a system that may never have been built for one. And when that single block breaks at 3 a.m. anyway, modern culture hands you a story your ancestors never had. That something is wrong with you. They didn't get that story. You did. So, what do? The next time 3 a.m. finds you awake? Stop fighting it. Not recklessly. Don't reach for your phone. Don't flood your eyes with blue light. Don't start a conversation, or a task list, or anything that flips on your threat system. But don't panic about being awake, either. Ekirch's research and Vere's experiment both point in the same direction. The waking interval, when it's allowed to exist without fear, tends to be brief and self-resolving. People who treated the middle of the night waking as normal, who prayed, who reflected, who simply lay still in the dark, tended to drift back into a second sleep naturally, without forcing it. The anxiety about the waking may be more disruptive than the waking itself. Your ancestors didn't lie awake, catastrophizing about lying awake. They accepted the gap. They lived inside it. Across cultures and centuries, many of them found that the waking hour had a quality the rest of life. Didn't a quietness, a looseness of mind, a sense of simply being present in the night without needing to do anything about it. You have inherited that gap. Somewhere in your biology is a body that still expects the night to come in 2 pieces. A body that still budgets 4 hours, a pause, and 4 more. A body built across 100,000 years of darkness, with no ceiling, no locked door, no guarantee that everyone could safely sleep at once. Tonight, when you open your eyes and the clock says 3 a.m., your brain is not broken. It is not a symptom. It is not proof that tomorrow will be ruined, or that your body has failed you. It is older than that. There is a 4-hour window in the middle of the night that almost everyone alive today has completely forgotten how to use. Tonight, you might remember it again,